History is filled with rulers who feared assassination, but only one became legendary for turning poison, which was the ancient world's deadliest weapon, into his greatest defense. In the ancient Mediterranean, 120 BCE, Rome's power was expanding relentlessly eastward. Small kingdoms trembled as Roman influence crept toward their borders. In this dangerous political landscape, assassination was not just common, it was expected. For young Prince Mithridates of Pontus, this harsh reality became personal when he witnessed his own father, King Mithridates V, collapse at a royal banquet, poisoned by conspirators. In that moment, watching his father die, young Mithridates made a decision that would alter the course of history and create a scientific legacy that survives to this day. After his father's murder, Mithridates fled into the wilderness. His mother, now ruling as regent, had allied with his father's killers and wanted her suspicious son eliminated. For 7 years, he lived as a fugitive, but this exile became his education. The kingdom of Pontus stretched along the Black Sea in what is now northern Turkey. Rich in natural resources and positioned at the crossroads of East and West, it was coveted by larger empires. But rather than merely hiding, Mithridates embarked on a revolutionary experiment. Drawing on Persian, Greek, and indigenous medical knowledge, he began consuming non-lethal doses of toxic substances. Starting with tiny amounts and gradually increasing the dosage, Mithridates theorized that his body would develop resistance. This process, now scientifically known as Mithridatism, was the first documented attempt at acquired immunity. At 20 years old, having transformed himself from hunted prince to poison-resistant warrior, Mithridates returned to claim his throne. He executed his mother and her conspirators, establishing himself as Mithridates VI, ruler of Pontus. Mithridates VI ruled from 120 to 63 BCE, eventually controlling much of Asia Minor and the Black Sea region. His immunity became both shield and psychological weapon. In a world where poison was the preferred tool of political elimination, Mithridates had rendered himself nearly invulnerable. The first documented assassination attempt came during negotiations with Roman emissaries. A servant, secretly loyal to Rome, added deadly nightshade extract to the king's wine. Nightshade contains atropine, which blocks nerve signals and causes paralysis and death. An amount that would kill an ordinary person had minimal effect on Mithridates, who recognized the bitter taste immediately. Deadly nightshade, also known as a troppa belladonna, was one of antiquity's most feared poisons, causing hallucinations before death. The second attempt came concealed in a diplomatic gift. But Mithridates had instituted a system of food tasters, not for his protection, but to identify which substances had been used against him. Each assassination attempt became a scientific opportunity. Mithridates documented symptoms, refined his antidotes, and expanded his immunities. Let's not forget that Mithridates was also a scholar who wrote treatises on medicine and toxicology that influenced Roman physician Galen. As his power grew, so did the variety and sophistication of attempts on his life. Poisoned blades designed to kill through minor wounds, venomous creatures placed in his chambers, toxins absorbed through skin contact. While building his immunities, Mithridates was also building an empire. He expanded Pontus to control most of the Black Sea region, positioned himself as protector of Greek cities against Roman expansion, and cultivated alliances with other threatened kingdoms. At its height, Mithridates' empire included modern-day Turkey, parts of Ukraine, Russia, and Georgia. By Middle Age, Mithridates had developed the most sophisticated antidote of the ancient world, a mixture of 54 ingredients including herbs, minerals, and animal products. This formulation, which he took daily, became known as Mithridatium. The final 5 assassination attempts grew more desperate and creative as conventional poisons failed. Some historians suggest Mithridates may have survived over 20 attempts in total, but 12 are well documented. By 88 BCE, Mithridates had had enough of Rome's interference. He launched a preemptive strike against Roman territories in Asia Minor, culminating in the infamous Asian Vespers, the coordinated massacre of 80,000 Roman citizens in a single day. Till this day, the Asian Vespers is considered one of the deadliest single days of politically motivated killing in ancient history. Rome's response was immediate and overwhelming. The Mithridatic Wars had begun, a conflict that would last 25 years and involve Rome's greatest generals. At first, Mithridates was remarkably successful, driving Roman forces back and liberating Greek cities. But Rome's military machine was relentless. Generals Sulla, Lucullus, and finally Pompey were sent to defeat the Poison King. By 63 BCE, Mithridates was in his late 70s. His empire was crumbling, his resources dwindling, and his allies deserting. Then came the cruelest betrayal. His son Pharnaces led a military rebellion against him. Cornered in his fortress at the Crimean Bosporus, facing capture by Pompey's legions, Mithridates decided he would not be paraded through Rome in chains. He prepared a lethal poison for himself and his daughters. His daughters died quickly, but then came the final supreme irony of his life. The man who had spent his life building immunity to poison could not poison himself. His lifetime of carefully developed protection had become his final prison. According to ancient sources, including Appian, Cassius Dio, and Plutarch, Mithridates repeatedly tried to poison himself, but could not die from it. Mithridates finally commanded his loyal Gallic bodyguard, Bituitus, to kill him with a sword. Thus ended the life of history's greatest toxicologist king, a man who defeated poison dozens of times, only to be defeated by his own scientific achievement. Pompey, finding his great enemy dead, ordered Roman physicians to study Mithridates' papers and antidote formulas. The king's scientific work was considered so valuable that it was one of the few treasures specifically sent back to Rome. Mithridates' universal antidote, Mithridatium, became the world's first standardized pharmaceutical preparation. It remained in continuous medical use for nearly 2,000 years, prescribed by physicians from Rome to Renaissance Europe. Mithridatium was finally removed from the London Pharmacopoeia in 1787, marking the end of its official medical use. The scientific principle Mithridates discovered, that controlled exposure to toxins can create immunity, remains fundamental to modern immunology. From vaccines to anti-venom production, his approach continues to save lives today. While his empire disappeared and his dynasty ended with him, Mithridates VI left behind more than conquered territories. He pioneered pharmacology, challenged Rome's greatest generals, and created one of history's most fascinating legacies of survival. Modern toxicologists now understand that immunity can be built to some poisons like arsenic, but not to others like cyanide, making Mithridates' achievement even more remarkable. Was Mithridates a paranoid despot or a scientific visionary? A defender of freedom against Roman imperialism or a ruthless conqueror in his own right? History allows him to be all these things at once. His story raises profound questions about adaptation, survival, and the lengths humans will go to overcome threats. In an age of simple poisons, he created complex solutions that resonated through millennia. Which historical figure would you like us to explore next? Comment below with your suggestions. If you found Mithridates' story fascinating, support our channel by subscribing and sharing.